she did something that only conservatives do. And they do it because they're conservative. So she got fired for being conservative, which was, she said, wow, the way this country is so divided and the way people hate their neighbors for things that they can't change is just like how Germans were told to hate Jewish people, which is interesting in a variety of ways. I will just save all of us, including you, listener. Based on the Nazi framework, you couldn't decide not to be Jewish. I'll just leave it at that. But that kind of comparison and then getting canceled and then like, wow, see, that proves my point. I'm hated. It's the kind of thing only a conservative would do. Anyway, she lost her job, and then Ben Shapiro picked her up, and she's going to be doing some kind of conservative movie about who knows what. But another casualty, so it was Gina Carano. There was this scare about Mr. Potato Head being gender neutral. Then those, yeah, right. This one was interesting. I really think that at a certain point, liberals just put this news out just to fuck with conservatives, knowing that conservatives are sick in the head. They will put out things like this, like, hey, did you know that we're making Mr. Potato Head gender neutral, just to watch conservatives flip out and be like, there goes the left, destroying our, like, we're not going to defend anything else. We are going to defend Mr. Potato Head. Then liberals will say like, wow, conservatives, are you really this upset over Mr. Potato Head? The thing is, whenever anybody runs that kind of routine on you, whenever anybody says, wow, it's just X, why are you so upset about it? The correct answer is, okay, then let me win.
Yeah.
Right. Why are you so mad over potato? I am. So if it's all the same to you, if it's just a plastic potato with eyeballs in its ass, right, and I'm just crazy, humor me. God knows progressives have humored worse delusions than that before. Humor me in my crazy belief that Mr. Potato Head is a proxy for, the views on gender that our society pushes on children, right? If I'm just nuts and it doesn't stand for anything, then let me win.
Yeah, any time in any situation, even a personal situation, that someone is pulling that card on you of this is not a big deal, but they also won't let you just have your way. That's how you know that they're just running a scam on you. Because, it's like, oh, I want the last, I want to sit in the window, not on the aisle. Well, come on, it's just a seat. What does it matter? Okay, well then switch.
Just a seat switch
in the window. It's like, well, obviously this is just a way to try to short circuit and it's almost like gaslighting. It's a way to make you feel like you're making a huge deal out of this. Just let it go. But also, I won't let it go.
Yeah. If it's nothing, then let me win. Right. This is a lesson that many an older sibling learns.
Mm-hmm.
Frankly, too late. Not until we're adults. And the left is always looking for ways to prove that something, again, even though it doesn't matter, right? They're always looking for outs like, well, this isn't really, cancel culture isn't real, but also this isn't real canceling, right? Because they say, well, Hasbro voluntarily changed the Potato Head brand, so that's not even canceling. Okay, so you have an idea of what canceling must really be. Another case is Dr. Seuss. So Theodore Seuss, Geisel, Dr. Seuss, famed writer of children's poems. Yeah, Mr. Seuss, right? 7 of his books were pulled.
This is a Jill Biden situation.
Yeah.
Dr. Seuss, Dr. Biden, Dr. Fauci. We got to stop with all this. Just Mr., Mrs. We don't have to be.
Hang on, are you saying Dr. Fauci isn't a?
You mean Mr. Fauci?
Right.
Tony the Big Needle Fauci.
So okay. So Dr. Seuss has 7 books, and well, he has a bunch of books, but 7 of them involved racial caricatures, which were okay in the 1930s or 40s when it was okay to arrest these people for being Chinese or Japanese, but they're not okay now. So his estate has pulled them from sale.
Are those ones high selling? Are the racist Dr. Seuss high selling?
Yeah, exactly.
Are the Japs next door? Is that a big Dr. Seuss seller? It's like the Cat in the Hat, and it's like the Jap is a rat or whatever. His words. Yeah,
right. So the thing about it is, liberals have been saying, well, that's not Dr. Seuss wasn't canceled because it was his family estate that pulled them voluntarily before there's any controversy. And this is true. And in fact, what we should interpret that as meaning is like the Seuss estate has preemptively made themselves uncancelable because once they voluntarily cut off a limb, anybody who ever tries to say like, hey, Dr. Seuss was this or that, the Seuss estate can say like, no, we've been through this. Like, remember all those dumb to even be talking about Dr. Seuss now makes you a dumb conservative. It's actually a masterful short-circuiting of the liberal dynamic, where now liberals can't even. Liberals have already been psyoped. Like, we are for Dr. Seuss now, right? It's already point. Yeah, it's already been decided if you're on the left that like Dr. Seuss is on the team because conservatives are.
And because it's his family, it's not like him personally or something. There's probably not going to be. There's actually no backlash from conservatives. The conservatives are not going to say, the people behind Dr. Seuss are part of this culture war against us. They're going to say, hey, Dr. Seuss and the people behind Dr. Seuss are victims of this culture war, which is why we should support Dr. Seuss. Mm-hmm. And they're all going out and buying books because they're so stupid. They think, I'm going to go buy The Cat in the Hat to prove that I resist cancel culture. While the liberals at the same time are going to go buy The Cat in the Hat because they're going to go, Dr. Seuss is now an approved thing that I know I can give my kid because they will preemptively scrub anything bad. So I know that it's good.
Ted Cruz.
This is actually brilliant for sales.
Yeah. Oh, I respect it. Yeah.
And then the old Dr. Seuss books probably weren't selling well anyway.
Yeah, there was.
And this gives it a good excuse to pull them from circulation. And now the remaining ones will be. They could do like a Disney Vault thing with racist Dr. Seuss books.
The forbidden Dr. Seuss. So Ted Cruz is selling signed copies of Green Eggs and Ham to show solidarity with Dr. Seuss. And now here's like the real hot take. Here's why you come listen to the More Minority. Here's why I get the big bucks. Conservatives should cancel Dr. Seuss. Dr. Seuss was a piece of fucking shit. And I don't mean Dr. Seuss was a racist, although he was against Japanese people. That's not important, right? Dr. Seuss was one of the OG cancelers. All the way back in 1935, 1939 really, Dr. Seuss was canceling conservatives by calling them Nazis. Okay? Dr. Seuss was trying to cancel the Chicago Tribune. Dr. McCormick was calling people like Charles Lindbergh Nazis and saying that if you didn't want to go to fight for Danzig, then you were therefore pro-Hitler. This was Dr. Seuss. And I'm glad we're approaching the point now where when I say, hey, conservatives, you see this children's author? Did you know that they are basically a communist fellow traveler? And they hate conservatives, and they want to brainwash your kids into thinking that you're a Nazi?
1 second, I got to find the quote. Here's the quote. We do not believe that either the study of the works of Karl Marx or membership in the Communist Party in America is antisocial. This was the soup he swam in.
Yes, and again, I use the word fellow traveler, right? And a lot of conservatives, I discovered something terrible about conservatives, by the way. Oh, I discover terrible things about conservatives every day. But I have a feeling that a lot of conservatives who are younger may not even know what the phrase communist fellow traveler means. A fellow traveler is somebody who is not a card-carrying member of the party, but works with and supports communist goals, at least to a certain point. So libertarians, for example, can be, I think, appropriately described as Republican fellow travelers. Even though none of us are Republicans, I think at this point we've come to understand that we can walk with Republicans up to a point. Some dumb libertarian is like, well, we're also Democratic fellow travelers to some extent. It's like, yeah, okay, fuck off. Why are you listening to my podcast? Go away. Right? Turn it off. Turn it off. Okay, so
Turn it off right in the middle of this sentence. Turn it off right as I to you.
I'm glad that conservatives are now at a phase where I'm like, hey, this children's author who you think of as being apolitical, not only was he not apolitical, he was political in ways that actively harm you. And they're not in the mood, they're not in the mindset to say, what? No way. Because we've seen now, we're in a cultural phase where we've seen, Bill Nye the Science Guy or whatever just take your fucking pick of cartoonist or director or just any person who outputs any media at all. J.K. Rowling, take your fucking pick, right? And just like you see that person, yeah, they hate you. They hate you for, at minimum, your conservatism.
Yeah, they hate you. They hate everything that you stand for, everything that you believe in, and they hate your existence, and they hate immutable characteristics about you.
Yes.
They hate every fiber of your being.
this is certainly true of Dr. Seuss. I'm just going to read an excerpt from an article that is in Chronicles magazine, which is great. I actually think that I think that I inspired this article because I posted this take days before it came out. Then Tho Bishop from the Mises Institute shared it. And then a bunch of people read it. And then like 3 days later, there's an article on Chronicles Mag saying almost the exact same thing.
And does that person have a link to Tho Bishop?
No. I mean, the thing is, a lot of shitlibs were also sharing their takes. It's like, actually, Dr. Seuss was a well-known anti-fascist. Conservatives should hate him. And it's like, and of course, when shitlibs are saying such and such is an anti-fascist, that's a good sign that, the exclamation point should go off on top of your head. Of course, shitlibs will also say, I don't know why you hate Antifa. After all, the entire U.S. Army was Antifa from 1939 to 1945. So, when I break a bottle over some old lady's head and burn down some shop, I'm actually basically the same thing as
your grandfather who stormed the beach at Normandy.
Yeah, as the 501st Airborne or whatever. As the 101st Airborne or whatever. The 501st is a Star Wars thing. The article is called Leave Dr. Seuss for Dead, and here's the excerpt. It is ironic to see members of the right run to the defense of the dear doctor, who was himself one of his era's greatest cancelers of conservatives. Dr. Seuss was the lead cartoonist during the interwar years for PM, a leftist New York daily tabloid dominated by communist fellow travelers. He routinely used his post to smear conservatives opposed to the Roosevelt administration as racist and anti-Semites, and the paper's editorialists aggressively lobbied Roosevelt's government to shut down conservative media. Moreover, in his role at PM, Dr. Seuss was one of the most effective propagandists advocating for war and internationalist foreign policies, committing American troops and treasure abroad. An enemy of the original America First conservative populist movement, Dr. Seuss was not just an advocate for America's early entry into World War II, but for a permanent internationalist foreign policy posture after World War II, and for the re-education of people worldwide into the ideals of American democracy. End quote. Now, obviously, I'm not going to try to convince any of my listeners how they should or should not feel about the America First Committee. If you think that Charles Lindbergh was an anti-Semite, again, just leave. Just fucking leave the podcast. Just hit pause and go. What's important here is for people who are not, who have not had their brains eaten by worms, is Dr. Seuss was on Team Evil, calling conservatives racist before it was cool. And so we should not mourn him. We should be, as conservatives, you should be actively attempting to put into your children's heart a hatred of Dr. Seuss. You should not buy Dr. Seuss books for your children. You should be actively discouraging them. You don't need to discourage them. Just don't buy Dr. Seuss books for your kids.
Do you remember the plot of Cat in the Hat? It's a terrible book to give your children.
Oh, man. Dan, as you say it, I sort of ramped at the plot, and I can already kind of see it. Actually, a lot of Dr. Seuss books do have, okay, ready? The Lorax is environmentalist propaganda. That's a very basic one, right? But even Cat in the Hat is about this guy that shows up to your house, and he never leaves, and then you offend him and make him leave, and then he leaves like this huge mess, right? And then he cleans it up at the end, only after you get down on your knees and apologize to him. Also, Green Eggs and Ham, again, is a book about a guy who doesn't want something, and then this well-meaning Sam I Am is trying to force it on you, right? I would not like it in a house. I would not like it in a mouse. And then he eats it. It's like, you see, you dumb conservative, if you only learn to try new things and thank me for the privilege of giving it to you, you'd be a much happier person.
Not to mention, what is the last? Do you know what the final sentence of the Cat in the Hat is? I happen to have a niece and nephew, so I know this stuff.
What is it?
It's the Cat in the Hat leaves, right? After a whole day of breaking all the rules and tearing up the house and all this, and he leaves. They finally get rid of him. The mother of the children comes home and asks, "What did you guys do today?" And they don't tell her. They decide to keep this little secret about their presumably adult male friend who came over to break rules with them in secret from their mother. And then it asks Dr. Seuss asks the reader, the 5-year-old kid reading the book, what would you do if your mother asked you? And in this article, you can see he talks about how, to him, this is a book about being anti-authority. So the unstated answer is you're supposed to not tell your mother. You're supposed to, your mother and her fuddy-duddy rules. She's probably just like one of those people that wouldn't eat green eggs and ham. She doesn't know that you should be out experimenting wildly with sex and